Hey, I'm Alessio Summerfield, and you're listening to Metal Gear Mondays Backlog. If you hear some weird shit about Patreons that aren't this one, don't listen to them. Just go to patreon.com/Metal Gear Mondays or soundcloud.com/Metal Gear Mondays for cool stuff. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to another episode of Metal Gear Mondays. My name is Alessio Summerfield, your host as always, and today I am joined by Sam Wright.
Hey, yo.
And here we are for another week of a micro episode.
A side-up, if you will.
Yeah, if you will. And some will, because I've seen it. Today we're going to be covering a little, not necessarily a loose connection to the Metal Gear series, because I think that they are kind of tied within their DNA to each other. But we are going to be covering a non-Metal Gear game, our first for the show. This is Zone of the Enders for the PlayStation 2. I know we've given them a ton of love in the past, but the duckfeed.tv podcast network has done a full episode of Watch Out for Fireballs, their retro game book club style show on Zone of the Enders. And they spent a majority of it talking about the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo, but they do eventually get to Zone of the Enders, and it is a great podcast, as always, from those fine gentlemen. So if you like what we are kind of dipping our toes into and you want something a little bit more robust, I would definitely check out their episode as it goes a full hour and a half, as opposed to the 20 to 30 minutes that we will dive into for this show. Sam, I could speak at length about my times with this game, but I wanted to first kind of touch base with you. What was your first experience playing Zone of the Enders?
I remember the first time I ever played it. I actually played Zone of the Enders 2 before I played Zone of the Enders 1.
Nice.
Honestly. But the first time I actually played Zone of the Enders 1 was, funnily enough, when the HD versions came out.
Ah, gotcha. I actually know a fair amount of people that was kind of their first foray into those games. And it's actually interesting because Zone of the Enders 1 and 2 on the HD collection, Zone of the Enders, the second runner, actually has some really weird frame rate problems on the PS3. Nothing crazy, but I do know specifically in the kind of more heavily visually affected parts of the game, the frame rate slows down tremendously. And I know playing multiplayer, which is what I did a lot of on the second runner, the multiplayer has a little bit of a frame rate issue on the PS3, but Zone of the Enders 1 is actually a perfect recreation. That's interesting. So coming from the more robust, kind of better game that is 2, what was your experience like playing Zone of the Enders 1?
It was a little rough, honestly, because, like, one of the few things that I do remember from playing it was, like, the weird grid system. Wasn't there, like, a weird grid system for, like, traveling and stuff?
Yeah, kind of like the overworld map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always really weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think the battles, like, were as fluid as they were into the second runner.
Yeah, the second runner is definitely way more focused on almost being... I don't know, I've heard it referred to as almost being like Devil May Cry with robots. Very, very fast, fluid, stylish, kind of beautiful game. And Zone of the Enders 1, you can kind of see where it got its start, but it's by no means held up, I would say, to the test of time. It's actually a little bit more worn for wear. But yeah, so a little bit of background for those of you who are unfamiliar with this series. And it's interesting to call it a series because you could almost say that Zone of the Enders, the second runner, is kind of the rest of the story that we kind of don't get at the end of Zone of the Enders 1. Yeah. Other than...
Zone of the Enders 1 is, like, surprisingly short.
Oh, it's insanely short. Other than these two games, there was a tactics strategy game that Zone of the Enders had released on the Game Boy Advance. It has Mars in the title, but it is completely slipping my mind at the moment. It's actually a pretty fun little game. I've played it a little bit. However, it started out with Zone of the Enders. It was originally developed for the PlayStation and the PC, but Konami's staff had no intention of releasing them on the PlayStation or the PC. They were built for the PS2. Essentially, it was a way to utilize the new technology because this game came out fairly early on in the PS2 life cycle. And it was kind of Konami's way of showing other developers, like, look at what we've done with this new technology and look at how cool of a game that we can make. And it was honestly a little bit more of like a tech demo kind of proof of concept. Look at this kind of cool, stylish, fast, slick game that we can put together. And maybe we'll do something more with it, maybe not, but who knows. I'm going to go ahead and say that other than the MGS2 demo that was packed in, I think if I paid full price for this game, I would be severely disappointed. How do you feel about that?
I guess I could agree with that a little bit.
It's just such a, I don't know, like I played this game as a rental around the time that it came out. A good friend of mine, I believe the second runner had already come out, and he and I played that a lot, and I was like, I love this game, and he was telling me, oh, there's a first one, you should play it before you play the story any further in the second runner so that you kind of know what's going on. Because, spoiler alert, Leo, the protagonist from Zone of the Enders 1, reappears in Zone of the Enders 2 in a really cool way, especially if you're if you're a Gradius fan. He kind of shows back up in a really cool way, flying the ship from Gradius. And my buddy was like, you really got to play the first one so you can kind of understand what the story is. And so I went and played the first one and was really excited, kind of wanting this big sprawling game, kind of like 2. And after, honestly, like, I don't even know if it was 2 hours. They were like, essentially the premise of the game is that you start out on this colony, and the colony is being attacked by terrorists. And this boy, Leo, unassuming boy, ends up becoming the pilot of an orbital frame called Jehuti, and ends up essentially being tasked with delivering this orbital frame off of the station before the terrorist forces can get to the technology, because it's kind of their target. That's what they want. And so there are 2 orbital frames. There's Anubis and Jehuti, and the terrorists have already procured Anubis, and essentially you're trying to take Jehuti off site. However, Leo, being the almost painfully stereotypical anime hero that he becomes, he decides that he's not in it to just get Jehuti off of the station. He wants to also save his friends and any sort of civilians that he comes across, because in a painful way, he literally refuses to kill anybody. So if I remember correctly, you don't kill any humans until the end of the game, and arguably the death is a suicide, because she knows that Viola knows that Leo will not kill her because he refuses to. So it's very frustrating having a game with such big, lofty themes as what is life, what is living all about, and then having it told through this lens of like a prepubescent boy who sort of refuses to take action. I'm not trying to say like, oh, you should just kill people. I'm not at all trying to say that, but it's just very frustrating that Leo almost refuses to take a stance on anything in the game, and makes it really painful as the player to kind of have to like line your sort of role playing up with this character who's kind of hard to get in the same shoes of. It's an interesting game. I will say this story is way better told in anime. I would go watch Neon Genesis Evangelion and have a way better version of this kind of trope unfold, for lack of a better word. Which
has one of the greatest theme songs in anime history. It's called A Cruel Angel's Thesis in English, but in Japanese it's called Zankoku na Tenshi no Thesis, which is, it's just amazing. I had it as my ringtone, an 8-bit version of it, for a very long time. 残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ But anyway.
But kind of tying Zone of the Enders and what it has anything to do with into Metal Gear, which is what this show is about. Hideo Kojima was a producer on the game. And likewise, Yoji Shinkawa, who is the designer, mechanical designer and character designer for Metal Gear, designed the mechs in the game, the orbital frames. He wanted to make them look as cool as he could, but he also wanted to make them sort of move in a way that would make the player kind of feel empowered. Essentially, and this is amazing, and it kind of comes back in Metal Gear with some of the Metal Gear designs. As a joke, Shinkawa was like, well, the cockpit of the mech is going to be literally the cock of the mech. And for some fucking reason, it made it through. Like, Konami and everybody was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. And so what started out as a joke turned into the actual design. So all of the orbital frames store their pilots within their penises.
Within their massive cocks.
Yeah, they're robot cocks.
Quite literally.
Exactly.
They're robot cocks.
So honestly, needless to say, if it wasn't for the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo pack-in, a lot of people probably would not have played Zone of the Enders. And if they did, it probably wouldn't be until the HD collection, which may or may not have ever even come out if the original game did not sell very well.
Right.
So I don't know. Kojima, as a producer, heavily recommended the use of like techno pop music. So there's a lot of like, I don't know. There's a lot of really cool kind of like. I'm trying to think of it. To me, it almost sounds like cathedral techno, if that makes a sense. Like, it sounds like this kind of like Phantasy Star Online kind of weird organ tones and lots of reverb and kind of very spacey like Blade Runner music, but more poppy. But it's that combined with kind of some like anime-esque kind of end credit music. The theme song for Zone of the Enders is called Kiss Me Sunlights, and it was composed and performed by Heart of Air, if that tells you guys anything, just by the titles.
It tells me literally nothing.
Yes. The music was composed by, it was Norihiko Hibino, who actually did a lot of the musical composition on the Metal Gear games, Maki Kirioka, and Akihiro Honda. And I hope to God I pronounce this correctly. Definitely feel free to send me a note if I fucked up.
Very hate-fueled rant.
Yeah, or a hate-fueled rant or a one-star iTunes review.
Yeah, after our wonderful discussion about Asian folk.
Oh, totally.
In the Metal Gear Solid Part 2 episode.
Yes. There are multiple endings in the game that are all unlocked depending on how well you do at protecting civilians. I'm going to go ahead and say that I've seen them. They're not that drastically different, so please do not kill yourself and try and 100% this game. It's pretty easy to do. Honestly, I think sitting down with it, you could probably get like a platinum trophy on the PS3 re-release in an afternoon if you knew what you were doing. I don't even know if there is a platinum available for it, but it would be easy to get all of the trophies. But yeah, no, the game, it's okay. It's the idea is cool. Again, I think that the protagonist's character and sort of the plot itself is a little short-lived and not very developed. Going back to what I was saying and what you were saying about it feeling short, essentially by the time you get to the sort of zone that will take Jehuti out of the station and you have your final boss fight and then you end up confronting Anubis who brutally beats your ass. Leo and Jehuti do get away and there's this kind of cool sequence where essentially they're like, okay, cool, we finally got Jehuti off the space station, well, let's send it to Mars. And to me, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is where the game begins. Like, it's going to open up, it's going to be awesome. And then
by the way, it's called The Fist of Mars.
There we go. The GBA game is called The Fist of Mars. I was just like, man, this is great. It's about to open up and get really crazy. And this whole first part was just kind of a tutorial or something. The game just fucking ends. The credits just start rolling. And I was disappointed and immediately went out and got the second game just to figure out, or just to play more and see where it goes. Again, I would heavily recommend the second game. I would play the first game as well if you buy the HD re-release, but I would not go out of your way to try and procure a copy. If they're expensive, I'm not sure if they are these days. I know the second runner runs for a lot on the PS2.
The HD collection, if you have a PS3, the HD collection is like $40.
Yeah, and you get...
I just save yourself the hassle.
Yeah, and you get both games. My good friend James and his wife Allison bought me the Zone of the Enders HD limited edition, and so it comes in a very nice box, and it comes with a book of artwork, which was fantastic. So thanks to them tremendously. Yeah,
another thing too, if you want to like beef up like your understanding of the story around the time of the first game, there actually are 2 anime series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That I had no idea existed until very recently. That I've been meaning to check out. The first one is called Zone of the Enders 2167 Idolo, which came out in February of 2001, and it's kind of a prequel series, and it tells a story of the first person who ever piloted an orbital frame. And then the one that comes after came out in September 2001, which, as we frequently allude to, nothing important happened in that time.
Oh, not at all.
It's called Zone of the Enders Dolores I, which is a follow-up to Idolo, but like the first 12 episodes take place before the first game, and the rest of the series takes place after the first game.
Nice.
So it kind of fills in some story gaps if that's something you may be interested in.
Nice. Yeah, and that being said, too, this is a series that has an interesting story to tell. I just feel like, and even somewhat in the second runner, I just feel like the Zone of the Enders games have a really weird problem of having like a cool world with cool lore, but showing it to you through the eyes of a shitty protagonist. And so I don't know. It's interesting, but I wish that they would do something more with the story and kind of open it up a bit more. So who knows? Maybe if there's ever a sequel to the second runner that actually comes out. There was one announced in 2012 called the Enders Project, is what it was being like the working title. However, it was canceled a year later due to issues with some of the HD ports that came out as well. So,
I don't know if you heard my hearty laugh just then.
Yeah, so I don't...
I feel like Half-Life 3 is going to come out before Zone of the Enders 3 ever gets even thought about.
Dude, at this point, with Misadventures of Tron Bonne and the original Mega Man Legends being on the PSN store, I almost feel like Mega Man Legends 3 has a better chance of coming out than Zone of the Enders 3.
Yeah, probably.
So who knows? But anyway, yeah, that's it for our micro episode on Zone of the Enders. Just a quick little taste. If you have any comments or thoughts on Zone of the Enders, if you're a huge fan of the series and you think that we've done you a great disservice by not talking sweet sugar for Zone of the Enders 1,
I swear to God, Alessio,
definitely let us know. And as always, you can rate and review us on iTunes. That would be extremely helpful, even if it's a negative review. We love reviews of all variety. And you can check us out on not iTunes. You can check us out on Twitter, SoundCloud, and Facebook as Geek Time Pod. You can go to our website, which is the Geek Time Network. You can visit us at geekti.me. There's a contact form up in the top left if you click the button. Or if you want to go to geekti.me/WP/contact, which will also take you to that same page. And you can send us any of your thoughts. Yeah, that's about it. Sam, do you have any more admin notes?
I just wanted to throw out there, we are very sorry that we had to, throw you out some padding these 2 weeks, because I know, anybody who cares about us are kind of chomping to hear us talk about the next part of Metal Gear Solid 2. But, Alessio has been / will be out of the country when this episode comes out, and it's kind of hard to record a podcast when your critical host is backpacking around Europe.
Sorry.
So hopefully we will be back with some regularly scheduled programming next week.
Totally. And thank you guys so much for sticking through and showing us that you guys really are listening to the Metal Gear Mondays podcast. It's been very, very nice to look at iTunes and kind of see some of the activity that's going on with the show. Not only does that motivate us to continue to do this because we see that people are listening, but it motivates us to do things like provide content for you even whenever we're out of the country, because I don't want to leave you guys with a week where we don't have something coming out. So that being said, definitely check out the rest of the shows on the Geek Time Network, and keep your eyes on the Geek Time Network website because we will be rolling out some new shows further down the line. So thank you so much, guys. As always, I've been Alessio Summerfield, and thanks so much for joining me on these 2 micro episodes. Sam, what can the audience remember to do?
Oh, to do?
Yeah.
Remember, it's just a box.
Just a box.